This is the second video in the series of Patanjali's ladder. If you haven't watched the previous 3 videos, then I urge you to do so, or at least the previous video. I'm going to give a couple of examples illustrating what I call Patanjali's ladder, which helps us descend from the 5-story edifice of cognition, which is what is meant by vritti. Vritti is the perturbations of the mind-heart. There are feelings and thoughts which are caught up with the process of cognition, by which we know things. So let me give an example. Let's take a simple cognitive fact, the fact that there's a world out there. This is the cognition, and we perceive the world, refer to Sutra 6 here, and see that it's a valid cognition even. And it's part of our education. Our education is very much concerned with the assumption that there's a world out there. The scientists assume that there's a world out there, that's what they study. So this could be regarded as a valid cognition, that there's a world out there. Now, in Sutra 5, Patanjali tells us that cognitions are either painful or not. They're either a source of affliction or not. Now the point here is that we don't normally take notice of something unless there is an emotional feeling, an emotional response to it. And most people have an emotional response to the world out there. And this is where vipariyaya comes in. Now we're caught up in our response, our emotional response. This is the misapprehension. We're not just accepting it as a cognitive fact that there's a world out there, we're making a value judgment about it. I'll just keep it simple and put it in crude terms. We might believe that the world is a bad place or a good place. Life is either hell or it's wonderful to be alive. The world is a source of happiness or a source of suffering. And how we see it depends on our disposition. So we could say this is the misapprehension because it's not just about the world, it's about our value judgment relating to the world. And we'll start conceptualizing this vikalpa. And this is when we conceptualize. We start thinking about the world in terms of concepts. It might be political concepts, religious concepts, economic concepts, concepts about justice and injustice, about globalization, about the environment. These are all concepts. These are all ideas. Now, there's nothing wrong with these concepts in their own context. But we're looking at the bigger picture, we're stepping back and looking at the bigger picture. We're interested in the spiritual context here, which has got nothing to do with any of that. We're getting in touch with the underlying reality. But what happens is we get caught up in this, don't we? We get caught up in the politics, in our feelings, our resentment about the world being such a miserable place, or in seeing it as a big trough that we can dig our snouts into, whatever. This is what we get caught up in though. This is the vritti, the ideas and feelings that we've got about it that suck us in. So this is what Sutra 9 is about. And it's just concepts, it's words, abstractions. There's no substantial reality behind it. And in fact, what we've got then is not the simple cognition of there being an external world. We've got a whole internalized attitude to it. And people's attitudes to it can be completely different. It is totally dependent on them. It is totally dependent on how they filter their experience, how they colour their experience. And this is referred to as sleep. The whole process is automatic. independent of reality. We're sleepwalking. And anybody that doesn't share our perspective is regarded as deluded, is not seeing the truth, is maybe a bit deranged or naive, especially if you're a miserable person and a bit depressed and you see the world as a miserable place. Then happy people can be a bit annoying. You don't believe that they're really seeing things how they really are, because you're so caught up in your own perception, your own existential tone, and that's what you keep reinforcing. You keep coming back to it, you keep remembering it. Memory isn't about just a sequence of images. Memory is about feelings, it's about emotions, it's the feeling of who we are. We filter all our cognitions in accordance with this underlying tone, this underlying existential tone. We don't let go of it, we keep bringing it back. This is what's meant by memory, or smrti here. It's a feeling which we affirm with respect to ourselves and the rest of the world. Now, if you can follow this process, if you can follow this analysis, then it's like a ladder coming from that original conception right down to this series of feelings that we have, which we keep affirming, whether they're painful or not painful, because we affirm the painful ones, strangely enough. But if we can come down from this 5-storied edifice, down this ladder that Patanjali is giving us, then as you come down the ladder, what happens is you're actually distancing yourself from the edifice. You start to develop dispassion, which is the subject of Sutra 12. But before looking at that, let me give just one more immediate example of how we can apply this. And again, I think I'll have to leave this till the next video.